Have you ever wanted something so bad, you'd be willing to do anything for it? A desire so intense, so primal, that you would do anything in your power to get what you wanted, no matter the consequences? Well, this story isn't quite that extreme, but I needed some kind of dramatic lead-in, so today I'm gonna draw some stuff and tell you guys about how, as a child, I wanted to play video games so badly I went to some pretty weird lengths to get my hands on them. Before we get into it, a quick note on the art for this video, as well as the next few. I've been working on a merchandise set featuring the characters from the new campaign of Critical Role. I have stickers and keychains and maybe some other stuff, so if you like the art, you can snag those on my store once they're available. Link in the description below. Now, on to the story. When I was a kid, I didn't get to play video games much. My first brush with anything video game adjacent were a few janky PC games I got to play on my family's computer. I have very vivid memories of playing the Toy Story and Hunchback of Notre Dame Disney interactive games for the PC on CD-ROM. But based on what my parents remember, I could only play them during summer vacation because my mom was a teacher and that's when she would bring her PC home from school. This was before laptops and portable computers were a thing, by the way. Late 90s computer games, baby, let's go! As for non-CD-ROM games, I was a child of the 90s, and so my first exposure to real video games was the Nintendo 64. Anything made earlier than that, I didn't get to play until much later in my life. I had a few friends in elementary school with N64s, and the only time I would get to play them was when I visited their houses. I had one friend, aka the kid who lived across the street from me who was about my age, and he had a ton of games. And I would go over to his house all the time to just watch him play them. He would hardly ever let me play, except to rope me into playing Star Fox 64 Versus Mode. He wouldn't explain how to play at all, so he'd kick my butt every single time. To this day, I still kinda hate Star Fox. But I had other friends who would actually let me play video games with them, and I fell in love so hard and fast. I had a few friends with Pokemon Stadium, and whenever I would go over to their houses after school, we'd fight each other with the little pre-built Pokemon, and do the little mini-games, like the Clefairy memorization game, which I sucked at, and the little Lickitung sushi restaurant one, which I sucked at too. I think the only minigame I was actually good at was the Magikarp one, where you press the button to jump into the counter and see how many times you could jump before time ran out, because the only skill that one required was pressing buttons really fast. One friend had Pokemon Snap, and we'd spend hours replaying the levels over and over again, trying to get the perfect snapshot of Mew or surfing Pikachu, and also replaying that one level in the mountains where you had to throw an apple into a Magikarp at just the right angle to knock it into a waterfall to get it to evolve into a Gyarados, and try to get pictures of it before you sped away on the autopilot. Once we spent an entire sleepover yelling at Hey You Pikachu, a game that came with a little microphone attachment for your controller so you could talk to a little virtual Pikachu and tell it to do stuff, and it only worked about 30% of the time. Nostalgic memories of youth. I'm realizing now that all the games I listed were Pokemon games, and yeah, that's really all I wanted to play back then. I like Pokemon, okay? I still do. Jolteon's my Gen 1 fave, but I like Umbreon and Emolga too. Look at my babies. And we did play other games too. I was pretty okay at the original Smash Bros. And had a lot of fun with that one Pokemon-themed level where the Electrode pops out of the building sometimes and explodes. And the Pokeball items were always my favorite because you never knew what you were gonna get. And yeah, okay, this just circled back around to Pokemon. But playing games when visiting friends wasn't enough. I wanted to have these games for myself, and I wanted to be able to play them whenever I wanted. So one day, I finally worked up the courage and asked my parents to buy me a Nintendo 64. And they said no, which, yeah, I could have seen that one coming, I guess. Video games are expensive, and my family wasn't super poor, but we definitely didn't have money for a bunch of video games laying around. However, little 8-year-old me wasn't gonna give up that easily. I didn't have an allowance or anything, but I figured if I saved up my birthday and Christmas money for a while, maybe I could save up for one, or even ask for one for Christmas. My prospects were looking a little bleak, but this was a problem I could potentially, eventually solve. And then, like a little flash of a miracle, an opportunity arose. One day in gym class at school, our teachers sat us down and told us about a contest being held by the state's Poison Control Center. The contest was to design a poster with some sort of poison safety message as the tagline. The contest was open to all 3rd and 4th graders in the district. I was in 3rd grade at the time, and there would be prizes for the winners. First place was a new bicycle, and second place was a Game Boy Color. Now, it wasn't the N64 of my dreams, but it was a video game, and that still counted, and I wanted it. So of course, I ran home to my mom and told her I had to enter this contest, and I needed to win second place. Cause who needed a bicycle when a Game Boy was on the line, are you kidding me? So over the next few days, I worked on designing and drawing this poster. Coming up with the tagline was the hardest part, but my mom and I eventually stumbled onto one by accident. At one point during our brainstorming, I mispronounced antifreeze, and we came up with the tagline, anti-fleas? No! Anti-freeze! Don't let your pets drink it! Or something along those lines. I drew a little poster of a cat drinking antifreeze from under a car with the slogan on top, and my entry was complete. In retrospect, this is very funny because I live in Texas and I have never had to use antifreeze ever in my life. It does not get cold enough here to need antifreeze in your car, but hey, whatever works, right? So I finished the poster, turned it in for the contest, and wait. And a few weeks later, the results were announced. First place was won by a girl a grade above me, a 4th grader from our school. And second place was me. By some absurdly perfect miracle, me and my little antifreeze cat poster not only won this contest, but won second prize, exactly what I was aiming for. Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you'll end up among the stars. More like shoot for second place, and the fates will take pity on you because screw the bike, you wanted to get your grubby little mitts on a Game Boy. And if you don't believe me, the proof is in the pudding. Or in this case, in the local newspaper article that I still have a copy of. And honestly, this article helped a ton when making this video because neither me nor my parents remembered the exact details of the contest. But past me stuck a scanned copy of this article in a little box that I've had kicking around, and it helped me fill in some of the gaps. Thanks, past me. Anyway, that night I went screaming home to my parents, so excited that I had not only won, but won the exact prize I was aiming for. I didn't get the prize directly. I had to go to the Walmart nearby to claim it, which meant I got to pick out what Game Boy I wanted. And I chose the transparent purple one, aka the correct choice. Since the prize didn't come with any games, my mom was nice enough to let me pick out a game for it too, and I snagged a copy of Pokemon Gold version. My first ever video game. And it was all downhill from there. I poured so many hours into that game, catching all the Pokemon I could and exploring the world and trying to uncover all the little secrets. Over the next few months, I ended up getting a copy of Pokemon Silver too, and my system was beating the game on Gold, transferring all my favorite Pokemon onto my Silver cartridge with the help of a friend and a link cable because we had to use link cables back then, and then restarting Gold version so I could replay the adventure without losing my little Pokebuddies. At some point, I got my hands on a little Pokemon sticker book and just coated the Game Boy in stickers. And that little box served me well for several years until I finally convinced my parents to let me get a Game Boy Advance for my birthday. I also eventually got a GameCube, but I think I'll save more childhood gaming stories for a future video because I definitely have enough to make a whole other video about. I think the moral of this story is, when life doesn't want to give you lemons, draw a cat doing dangerous activities and win a free lemon through an art contest. That is definitely how the saying goes. No, I will not be taking constructive criticism at this time. Anyway, that's all for me for this video. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and one more reminder, if you like the art I finished in this video, you can get physical versions of it in my online store. There's a link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.